When will we stop turning a blind eye to the growing number of people living on the streets? In Chico, what was once a quiet, affordable town has become a battleground for the homeless, with more individuals and families displaced every day. The streets are filled with those who have lost everything: jobs, homes, and hope. These are not just numbers or faceless statistics. They are real people with stories of hardship and survival.
It doesn't make sense. I don't know where to go. And I really don't know what the solution could be besides having some place that people can afford to help us get back on our feet.
How much longer can we ignore this before it consumes us all? Stick with me, because understanding this crisis is the first step toward real change. The reality of homelessness in Chico is impossible to ignore, as it continues to grow more visible with each passing day. On the streets of this once peaceful town, the faces of homelessness tell a story of struggle and survival.
You know, being homeless is no easy task, and especially when you have health problems and stuff.
As of 2025, over 1,390 individuals are experiencing homelessness in Butte County, with approximately 1,065 of them living in Chico. What's even more troubling is that 40% of them are living unsheltered, without the basic protection of a roof over their heads, facing extreme weather conditions and daily challenges. This surge in homelessness has created a profound impact on the community, affecting not only the homeless themselves, but also the social fabric of Chico. Neighborhoods that once felt safe and tight-knit are now dealing with the visible presence of people living in tents, makeshift shelters, and on sidewalks. There are increasing reports of individuals and families who have nowhere to turn, left to navigate an overburdened and underfunded shelter system. Unfortunately, this situation is only getting worse, and the pressure on available resources is becoming unsustainable. While Chico has long been known for its small-town charm, these days the crisis of homelessness has become a constant and overwhelming presence. The problem is no longer confined to the fringes of society, it's at the heart of the community. People who were once part of the workforce, stable families, or students at the local university are now part of the growing homeless population, struggling to survive. It's an issue that affects everyone, whether directly or indirectly. This growing crisis is not unique to Chico. In fact, it reflects the broader issue of homelessness in America. Rising costs of living, combined with systemic failures, have left many struggling to find stable housing.
Limited on housing, and it sucks. I've been out here since I was a little kid.
They want us to leave out of town. They want us to be out of city limits.
With this growing number of homeless individuals, the reality is becoming clearer. It is not just about a lack of housing. It's about a lack of community infrastructure, a shortage of resources, and the deep underlying social inequalities that continue to widen the gap between the housed and the homeless. The question we must ask ourselves now is How long can we continue to ignore the suffering of those living on the streets? At the heart of the homelessness crisis in Chico is the same issue affecting cities across the country, an inadequate supply of affordable housing. Rent prices have been rising steadily for years, and as wages remain stagnant, more and more people are being priced out of their home. What once was an affordable town for working-class families has now become a place where even the most basic forms of housing are beyond reach for many. And the housing shortage is not just an inconvenience, it is a direct cause of homelessness. But it's not only the economy that's at fault. Natural disasters, such as wildfires, have exacerbated the situation, leaving thousands of people displaced and without shelter. The Park Fire alone displaced hundreds of families, and while recovery efforts have begun, the process is slow and often inefficient. These families have not only lost their homes, but are now left with nowhere to go, as shelter space is filled to capacity and housing options are limited. In a place where disaster recovery is vital, the lack of affordable housing options is creating an even deeper crisis. On top of that, mental health and substance abuse issues play a significant role in perpetuating homelessness. While some individuals may find themselves homeless due to economic hardship, others may struggle with untreated mental illnesses or addictions that prevent them from maintaining stable employment or housing. These issues are often exacerbated by a lack of available treatment programs and supportive housing options, trapping individuals in a cycle of homelessness and despair. And perhaps most concerning of all is the lack of effective social support systems. The services available to the homeless in Chico and across the United States are often inadequate, underfunded, and stretched thin. Shelters are overcrowded, and the help that many people need to overcome their struggles is often unavailable. So, we must ask ourselves, why are these systems not equipped to meet the demands of those who need them most? Homelessness in Chico, like many places, impacts a broad range of people, each with their own unique circumstances. It's not limited to one demographic, and the issue spans various age groups and backgrounds. However, certain groups are disproportionately affected, each facing distinct challenges that make them more vulnerable. A large portion of the homeless population in Chico are working poor individuals. These people hold full-time jobs, but still can't afford to live in the area due to skyrocketing housing costs. Many are employed in low-wage industries like retail, food service, and agriculture. Despite putting in long hours, they're often unable to cover their basic needs, let alone afford rent. These workers, who are essential to the local economy, find themselves priced out of the very community they help sustain. Their plight highlights the widening gap between wages and the rising cost of living, which has left many struggling to keep their heads above water. Another group severely affected by homelessness are those displaced by natural disasters, particularly the wildfires that have ravaged Northern California. People who were already living paycheck to paycheck found themselves with nothing after the fires destroyed their homes. The slow recovery process and limited housing resources have made it even harder for these families to rebuild their lives. They are not only battling the trauma of losing everything, but also facing a shortage of affordable housing options, making their situation even more dire. Lastly, individuals struggling with mental health and addiction are a significant portion of Chico's homeless population. For many, homelessness is a direct result of untreated mental health issues or substance abuse disorders. These challenges often prevent individuals from maintaining stable jobs or securing housing. Without adequate mental health services or addiction recovery programs, they find themselves stuck in a cycle of homelessness, unable to break free. These are not just statistics. They are our neighbors, veterans, and families, people who are one step away from losing everything. How long can we stand by and let this crisis continue? The government has made some efforts to address homelessness in Chico, but the problem remains far from solved. One of the most notable efforts has been the introduction of the Housing First initiative, which focuses on providing stable housing to individuals before addressing other issues such as addiction or mental health. The theory behind this approach is that people are better able to focus on solving the underlying causes of their homelessness once they have stable housing. While the Housing First model has proven effective in other areas, Chico still faces challenges in implementing it on a large scale. Despite these efforts, the reality is that the city's homeless services are underfunded and overwhelmed. Shelters are consistently at capacity, and there are not enough long-term housing solutions available to meet the growing demand. The city has increased funding for homeless services in recent years, with a budget of $112 million for 2025. But these funds are still insufficient to meet the immediate needs of the homeless population. While the increase in funding is a positive step, it's clear that more is needed to address the scale of the problem. This issue is not unique to Chico. It reflects the broader challenge of homeless in America, where cities across the country face similar struggles with rising homeless populations and inadequate support systems. The local government is also working to provide more temporary housing options, such as the Genesis Pallet Shelters, which offer small, individual units for homeless individuals. However, these shelters are often underutilized due to stigma and distrust in the system, which makes it harder for people to seek help. The fact that these shelters have unfilled spaces while many people remain on the streets raises important questions about how the city can better address these barriers to access and encourage more people to utilize these resources. As the government struggles to keep up with the growing needs of the homeless population, nonprofits and community organizations have stepped in to fill the gap. These organizations such as the Coalition for the Homeless and the Bowery Mission, have been instrumental in providing immediate relief for those who find themselves living on the streets. From offering food, clothing, and basic necessities to providing mental health services and job training, these groups play a critical role in supporting the homeless. However, while their work is invaluable, it's clear that they are operating at the limits of their capacity. Local organizations rely heavily on donations, grants, and volunteer support, but this is not sustainable in the long term. As the homeless population grows, so too does the demand for their services. Nonprofits in Chico, like many others across the country, are fighting an uphill battle with limited resources. Many shelters are already overcrowded, and with the lack of long-term housing solutions, people are cycling through shelters or living on the streets, unable to escape their dire situation. The impact of community-based efforts is undeniable, but these initiatives alone cannot solve the homelessness crisis. There needs to be a collaborative, long-term approach involving both governmental action and nonprofit support. The local community must continue to show up, but government policies must evolve to provide better housing options, mental health services, and pathways to permanent stability for those who have fallen through the cracks. The solution to homelessness in Chico requires a multifaceted approach that involves both government intervention and community action. At the heart of the issue is the lack of affordable housing. To truly address homelessness, we must build more housing that is accessible to low-income individuals and families. This means not just temporary shelters, but long-term housing solutions that offer stability and security. It's not enough to just put a roof over someone's head for a night. People need homes that they can rely on. Additionally, mental health and addiction services must be expanded. Many individuals who experience homelessness also face mental health issues or addiction. These challenges are often left unaddressed, trapping people in a vicious cycle of instability. Providing adequate mental health care, addiction recovery programs, and support services would not only help people regain their footing, but also prevent them from falling back into homelessness in the future. This is a common issue faced by many in Chico and is mirrored across homeless in America, where lack of mental health resources contributes to the ongoing crisis. Furthermore, we need to shift the way we view homelessness. Instead of blaming individuals for their circumstances, we must recognize that homelessness is often the result of larger societal issues. By focusing on preventative measures, such as increasing access to affordable housing, improving the healthcare system, and providing more support for mental health, we can reduce the number of people who end up on the streets in the first place. By addressing the root causes, we can make significant strides in reducing homelessness, both in Chico and nationwide. Having lived in Chico and witnessed firsthand the growing number of people experiencing homelessness, it's impossible not to feel both frustration and deep empathy. These individuals on the streets are not just statistics. They are people with stories, with dreams, and with struggles that are often beyond their control. It's easy for some to think that homelessness is simply the result of poor choices, but the reality is far more complicated. Many of the people I see were once stable, working hard, paying bills, and living regular lives. A medical emergency, a job loss, or just a series of unfortunate events, and suddenly they find themselves without a home. What strikes me most is their resilience. Despite the hardships they face, they continue to push forward, day after day, with hope for a better tomorrow. Yet, society often overlooks them, or worse, stigmatizes them, as if they are solely to blame for their circumstances. But the truth is, homelessness can happen to anyone at any time. The systems meant to support people through difficult times are often inaccessible or insufficient, leaving too many people falling through the cracks. It's heartbreaking to see so many, particularly veterans, single mothers, and the elderly, struggling to survive without a roof over their heads. Homelessness is not just a housing issue, it's a societal issue, a failure to protect and care for our most vulnerable. It's time we stop viewing it as a moral failing and start recognizing it for what it truly is, a crisis that demands our collective attention and action. Conclusion. The homelessness crisis in Chico mirrors deeper societal challenges that demand attention. It's not just about housing, it's about the systems that fail to support the most vulnerable among us. This is a multifaceted issue that requires long-term solutions, affordable housing, better mental health care, and a complete shift in how we approach poverty and support. We must remember that behind every homeless statistic is a person with a story deserving of dignity. Together, through collective effort and compassion, we can create lasting change, ensuring no one is left behind. It's time to turn empathy into action